Welcome to the Creative Commons RX podcast. Before diving into this episode, I want to ensure we're all on the same page. This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.
All right, let's get into it. We're about to unravel the story of toxicology, and you should really think of it as a giant detective story that spans centuries. It's a wild journey from, mystical potions and secret poisons, all the way to the cutting-edge science that keeps us safe every single day.
So everything really starts with one central question. What actually is the difference between a medicine and a poison? It's a wild thought, right? That the line between something that heals you and something that harms you is, it's razor thin. And the answer is the foundation for this entire field.
And here it is, the answer, summed up perfectly way back in the Renaissance by a physician named Paracelsus. He had this incredible insight. It's not about what the substance is, it's about how much of it there is. To put it simply, the dose makes the poison. That one idea, it changed everything. It's why the instructions on a bottle of aspirin tell you to take 2, not 20.
Now, to really get why that was such a huge deal, we've got to rewind. We have to go back to a time when poisons weren't viewed through the lens of science at all. Nope, it was all about magic and superstition. For hundreds of years, the prevailing logic was pretty much, you fight magic with more magic. You had alchemists and physicians completely obsessed with finding a universal antidote. Just imagine that, a single mythical potion that could cure any poison. They'd create these unbelievably complex mixtures, like Mithridatum, which sometimes had over 60 ingredients, all based more on ritual and hope than on actual scientific evidence.
So you can see just what a massive change this was. It's a complete flip. We go from a world of superstition and rituals to a world of observation and experimentation. The whole hunt for some magical one-size-fits-all cure gets replaced by this very logical, scientific study of the dose-response relationship. That was the revolution. Finally understanding how a little bit of something versus a lot of it changes everything.
Okay, so the thinking is shifting, which is great, but this creates a whole new problem, right? How in the world do you catch a poisoner when their weapon of choice is, invisible? It leaves no obvious trace. The new challenge became, how do we make the invisible visible?
And this is where the first heroes of forensic toxicology step onto the scene. Early on, you had scientists like Felice Fontana doing these really careful, rigorous experiments on things like snake venom. Then comes Bonaventure Orfila, who starts really pushing to use chemical analysis as actual evidence in the courtroom. But the true game changer, that came in 1836. A chemist named James Marsh developed a test so incredibly sensitive it could find the tiniest trace of arsenic, which was, the poisoner's favorite weapon back then.
And this new Marsh test, it got its big star moment during the sensational trial of Marie Lafarge in 1839. This was a massive deal. For the very first time, science literally walked into a courtroom. The prosecution could finally move beyond just symptoms and speculation. Now, they had cold, hard chemical proof of arsenic. Lafarge was convicted, and just like that, the world of criminal investigation was changed forever.
But, toxicology isn't just about catching criminals. The next giant leap for the field didn't come from a crime at all. It came from a heartbreaking public health tragedy, a disaster that exposed a huge, fatal crack in the system and led directly to the protections we all rely on today.
105. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how many people, many of them children, died in 1937. And they died from taking a medicine that was supposed to make them better.
See, here's the crazy part. Before this disaster, the law didn't require drugs to be proven safe. The only thing that mattered was that the label was accurate about its ingredients. So the maker of this elixir sulfanilamide used a sweet-tasting but highly toxic solvent to dissolve the drug.
The actual drug was fine. The problem was the untested solvent was a deadly poison.
As you can imagine, the public outcry was immense. It was this tragedy that directly led to the 1938 Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. And here's the crucial change. For the first time, companies were required by law to prove their drugs were safe before they went to market. The FDA's entire mission shifted from just checking labels to proactively guaranteeing our safety.
So, the world was getting safer in some ways, but after World War II, a completely new kind of danger started entering our homes. And that led to the creation of a public health lifeline that we still use today.
After the war, there was just an explosion of new chemicals in all kinds of household products. And with that came a scary problem. One study found that over half of all accidents involving children were poisonings. Doctors were totally overwhelmed. They couldn't possibly keep up with what was in all these new products. A real crisis was brewing.
The solution started small, with just a single office in Chicago, which became the country's first poison control center in 1953. The idea was so good it just took off, and the system grew piece by piece over decades. First a national clearinghouse to standardize all the information, then professional organizations to set standards. This whole effort finally came together in the year 2000, when a single national toll-free number was created to connect everyone to expert help.
And this is that number, 800-222-1222. It is the direct legacy of that post-war crisis. It's a public health lifeline that evolved to meet a critical need, and it provides free expert advice 24 hours a day.
So, what does the detective story of toxicology look like today? Well, the field has never been more complicated. It's facing some incredible modern challenges, but it's also armed with some unbelievable new opportunities.
I mean, on one hand, toxicologists are on the front lines of the opioid crisis. They're dealing with environmental toxins, food contamination, even terrorism preparedness. But on the other hand, they have these amazing new tools. Fields like toxicogenomics and precision medicine are just opening up entirely new ways to understand and fight poison.
Take toxicogenomics. It sounds really complex, but the idea is actually super cool. It's a new field that studies how your unique DNA affects how you respond to different chemicals. This isn't just theory anymore. This science is paving the way for personalized medicine, where treatments can be tailored specifically to your genetic makeup. It helps us predict which new substances might be harmful before they ever become a problem.
And that brings us to the final and most critical question. The world of chemicals is constantly expanding, so that core mission of toxicology, to understand the dose that makes the poison, is more vital than it's ever been. This story is far from over, and its next chapter is being written right now in labs all over the world by the people working to anticipate and neutralize the threats of tomorrow.
This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.